He came from the west with thunder in his eyes, a conqueror the world feared. But in India, Alexander the Great faced something no one had prepared him for. This is the story of a conqueror who met his match, not just in armies, but in the unyielding spirit of a land that refused to be broken. To truly understand the formidable adversary that Porus faced on the battlefield, the man who dared to challenge the might of India, we must delve into the origins of Alexander the Great. We need to understand the crucible in which he was forged, the influences that shaped his character, and the relentless ambition that drove him to conquer vast empires. To do that, we must look to Macedonia, a land of rugged mountains and ancient traditions. It was here, in this cradle of civilization, that Alexander's story began, a story that would forever alter the course of history. It was here where Alexander was forged, not only in the fires of war, learning the art of strategy and combat from a young age, but also in the pursuit of wisdom, guided by some of the greatest minds of the ancient world. His training began under the watchful eye of his father, King Philip II, a brilliant military strategist who transformed Macedonia into a dominant power in the region. Philip instilled in his son a deep understanding of warfare, politics, and leadership. But Alexander's education extended far beyond the battlefield. He was also tutored by Aristotle, the renowned philosopher, who imparted to him a love of knowledge, a thirst for understanding, and a profound appreciation for the arts and sciences. This unique combination of military prowess and intellectual curiosity shaped Alexander into a leader of unmatched ambition, a leader who dreamed of conquering the world and spreading Greek culture to its farthest reaches. His early campaign saw him swiftly conquering Persia, dismantling the vast Persian Empire and establishing himself as the new ruler of the East. With Persia under his control, Alexander, driven by an insatiable desire for conquest and exploration, then turned his gaze east, towards the fabled lands of India, a land of untold riches and formidable warriors. The year was 327 BCE, a pivotal moment in history that would bring two great empires into direct conflict. Alexander, fueled by an unwavering belief in his own destiny and driven by a desire to reach the world's end, to push the boundaries of his empire to their absolute limits, prepared for his most ambitious campaign yet. With his loyal and battle-hardened army, he embarked on a perilous journey, leading them into the unknown lands beyond the formidable barrier of the Hindu Kush Mountains, towards a confrontation that would test the limits of his military genius. The India Alexander invaded was a patchwork of kingdoms and republics, not a single empire. Cities like Taxila thrived on trade and learning, while warrior kings and their war elephants stood ready to defend their lands. Alexander and his men were entering a world utterly alien to them, one with its own ancient rules of combat and power. In spring 327 BCE, Alexander's army crossed the Indus River, entering the Punjab with a bridge of boats. King Ambi of Taxila welcomed Alexander, seeking an alliance against his rival, King Porus. Taxila became Alexander's base, but this alliance drew him into local rivalries and set him on a collision course with Porus. The stage was set for one of history's most famous battles. On the banks of the Hydaspes, a river that snaked through the ancient lands of India, two mighty forces stood poised for a clash that would echo through the ages. The air crackled with tension, the ground trembled with anticipation. It was here, on this fateful day, that the relentless march of Alexander the Great would meet its most formidable challenge yet. Alexander faced King Porus, a ruler of immense stature and unwavering courage. Porus, a name synonymous with valor, commanded the respect of his people and the fear of his enemies. He was not merely a king, but a symbol of resistance against the encroaching tide of the Macedonian Empire. His eyes reflected the weight of responsibility, the determination to defend his kingdom at all costs. Before Porus stood his terrifying line of war elephants, colossal beasts of war, their tusks sharpened, their hides armored. These weren't just animals, they were living fortresses, each capable of crushing entire ranks of soldiers. Their thunderous roars echoed across the battlefield, a symphony of dread intended to shatter the morale of the invading army. But Alexander was not easily deterred. He knew he needed a strategy, a way to overcome Porus's seemingly impenetrable defenses. Using deception, a tactic he had honed to perfection, he formulated a daring plan. Under the cover of a dark and stormy night, Alexander led a select force across the treacherous river. The rain lashed down, obscuring their movements, the thunder masking the sounds of their advance. It was a gamble, a desperate attempt to gain the upper hand. The surprise was complete, catching Porus and his army completely off guard. The Macedonians emerged from the darkness like vengeful spirits, their battle cries shattering the stillness of the night. The battle that followed was brutal, a maelstrom of steel and blood, a clash of civilizations. The disciplined ranks of the Macedonian phalanx clashed against the raw power of Porus's war elephants, a terrifying spectacle of man versus beast. Spears shattered against thick hides, soldiers were trampled underfoot, the air filled with the screams of the dying. Utter chaos reigned. Carnage was everywhere, a testament to the ferocity of the fighting. The ground was slick with blood, littered with broken weapons and the bodies of the fallen. Alexander's archers, with deadly precision, targeted the elephant riders, the mahouts, knowing that disrupting the control of these massive creatures was key to victory. The plan worked. Panicked and riderless, the elephants turned against their own lines, wreaking havoc among Porus's infantry. After hours of savage fighting, both sides exhausted and bloodied, the tide began to turn. King Porus, despite his valiant efforts, was defeated. Yet he was captured with honor, a testament to the respect Alexander held for his courageous adversary. The Battle of the Hydaspes was over, but its legacy would endure. King Porus, ruler of the Pauravas, was a giant of a man and a symbol of Indian resistance. He commanded a powerful army and fought Alexander with unmatched bravery, earning the conqueror's respect. Porus became the embodiment of defiance, a king who would not bow, even in defeat. Impressed by Porus's courage, Alexander asked how he wished to be treated. "As a king," Porus replied. Alexander restored Porus's kingdom and expanded it, making him a satrap and ally. This political move stabilized the region and marked Alexander's attempt to blend Greek and local power. But the peace was fragile, and Alexander's ambition was far from satisfied. Alexander's campaign was a profound cultural encounter. Greeks marveled at India's social structure, spirituality, and philosophers. Dialogues with Indian ascetics fascinated Alexander, sparking a two-way exchange of ideas. This fusion of Greek and Indian thought would shape art and philosophy for centuries. After Hydaspes, Alexander wanted to march east to the Ganges, but his exhausted army refused. Facing monsoons, endless fighting, and tales of the mighty Nanda Empire, his men mutinied at the Hyphasis River. Alexander, frustrated, was forced to turn back. The great conquest was over, not by defeat but by the will of his own men. With his grand ambitions in India thwarted, Alexander faced a difficult decision. The prospect of continuing eastward seemed less appealing than securing his conquests and returning to the heart of his empire. After much deliberation, Alexander chose a new route home, a strategic withdrawal that would test his army's resilience and his own leadership. Rather than retracing his steps through the familiar yet still challenging mountain passes, he opted for a southerly path, marching south along the Indus River. This route promised access to supplies and a more direct line to the sea, but it also meant confronting new challenges and potentially hostile populations. As Alexander's army moved southward, they encountered various Indian tribes, some willing to submit, others fiercely resistant. Alexander, determined to maintain control and secure his retreat, engaged in a series of campaigns, subduing tribes with brutal force. These battles were often swift and decisive, showcasing the Macedonians' superior military tactics and weaponry. But they also came at a cost, further depleting the army's resources and morale. During one particularly fierce engagement, Alexander himself was gravely wounded in battle, struck by an arrow that pierced his armor. The incident sent shockwaves through the ranks, highlighting the dangers they faced and the vulnerability of their seemingly invincible leader. Despite the severity of the wound, Alexander's resilience and the skill of his physicians ensured his survival. His recovery, though slow, served as a rallying point for his troops, reminding them of his strength and determination. Reaching the shores of the Arabian Sea, Alexander made a crucial decision to divide his forces. Recognizing the logistical challenges of moving such a large army through potentially hostile territory, his army split. A significant portion, under the command of Nearchus, was to sail westward, exploring the coastline and establishing sea routes back to Persia. These sailed, while Alexander, with the remaining troops, embarked on a perilous journey through the Gedrosian desert. This vast and unforgiving landscape was known for its extreme heat, scarcity of water, and treacherous terrain. Alexander led the rest through the deadly Gedrosian desert, a decision that would test the limits of human endurance. The march through Gedrosia proved to be a nightmare. The scorching sun beat down relentlessly, and water sources were few and far between. Thousands perished from heat and thirst. The desert claimed the lives of soldiers, camp followers, and animals alike. The once invincible army, accustomed to victory and conquest, was now reduced to a desperate struggle for survival. Exhaustion, disease, and starvation took their toll. The once proud legions were shattered, their spirit broken by the harsh realities of the desert. Finally, after enduring unimaginable hardships, the remnants of Alexander's army emerged from the Gedrosian desert. When they emerged, they were a shadow of their former selves. Their numbers significantly diminished, their bodies weakened, and their morale shattered. The retreat had taken a devastating toll, forever marking the end of Alexander's eastward ambitions. Alexander returned to Babylon in 323 BCE, planning new conquests and a fusion of cultures. Weakened by wounds and years of campaigning, he fell ill and died at just 32. His empire, held together by his charisma, fractured into warring kingdoms. The age of Alexander was over. Alexander's Indian campaign became the stuff of legend. Romantic tales, heroic duels, and stories of truce and defeat. Greek sources glorified his genius. Indian legends later reframed the story to highlight Indian valor. The truth lies somewhere in between, myth and memory entwined. Alexander's invasion opened a corridor for centuries of Greco-Indian exchange. Indo-Greek kingdoms arose, issuing bilingual coins and fostering Gandhara art, a blend of Greek and Buddhist styles. The Buddha was depicted in human form, echoing Greek gods. This artistic and cultural fusion spread across Asia, leaving a lasting legacy. Our knowledge of Alexander's Indian campaign comes almost entirely from Greek and Roman sources, written long after the events. Indian records are silent, leaving us with a one-sided view shaped by the invaders. We must read these accounts critically, aware of their biases and gaps. For Alexander, India was the edge of the world, a land of marvels, mystery, and profound wisdom. He came as both conqueror and explorer, fascinated by Indian philosophy and the gymnosophists. His reports shaped Western perceptions of India for centuries. Alexander's invasion exposed the dangers of a divided India and the need for unity. The shock of foreign conquest spurred local powers to consolidate. Chandragupta Maurya, inspired by these events, rose to unite the subcontinent and found the Mauryan Empire. India, once invaded, became the master of its own destiny. After Alexander, Seleucus tried to reclaim India but was defeated by Chandragupta Maurya. Seleucus ceded vast territories in exchange for war elephants and a diplomatic alliance. India now shaped its own future, with Megasthenes documenting Mauryan society for the world. What if Alexander had marched on the Nanda Empire? Victory was possible, but the consequences would have been immense. A Greek-ruled Magadha might have prevented the rise of the Mauryan Empire and changed the fate of Buddhism. The world as we know it could have been radically different. In India, Alexander faded from memory, overshadowed by the rise of the Mauryan Empire. Later, he re-emerged in folklore as Sikandar, a legendary challenger, not a hero. Today, he is respected for his abilities, but remembered as a foreign invader who could not break India's spirit. Alexander's direct political impact on India was fleeting, but his invasion shattered the old order and opened channels for cultural exchange. The Gandharan art that followed is a testament to this creative fusion. Most importantly, his campaign spurred India toward unity and a new imperial identity. Alexander's Indian campaign was a lesson in limitations. He won battles, but not the war. Legends exaggerate his conquests, but the reality is he was stopped by geography, resistance, and the will of his own men. His journey was less a conquest, more a humbling education in the resilience of an ancient civilization. Alexander's glory faded, but India endured, absorbing, adapting, and flourishing. The true conquerors are those with the deepest roots, not the sharpest swords. Thank you for joining me. Subscribe to Crazy Color Facts for more journeys into history's hidden stories.